Regulation M is intended to limit the activities of certain distribution participants in connection with a securities distribution, to the extent that those activities could potentially have a manipulative effect on the market for the offered security. So it's an anti-manipulation rule. And thinking about the application of Reg M to a securities offering, you should assess whether the proposed offering involves a distribution as defined under Reg M. Under Reg M, a distribution is an offering of securities, whether or not subject to registration, that's distinguished from ordinary trading transactions by the magnitude of the offering and the presence of special selling efforts and selling methods. So it's important to consider whether the offering is indeed a distribution. In thinking about the magnitude component, you might consider the number of shares being offered relative to the company's public float or relative to the company's average daily trading volume. In considering the presence of special selling efforts, you might take into account whether the issuer is conducting any kind of roadshow or there's investor outreach that's being made in connection with the offering. In order to comply with Reg M, first, of course, one has to assess whether there are any exemptions from Regulation M. One of the principal exemptions from Rule 101 and Rule 102 is available for transactions in Rule 144A securities. So Rules 101 and 102 of Regulation M prohibit certain distribution participants from engaging in activities that are designed to or that may have a manipulative effect. So for example, distribution participants are prevented from bidding for, purchasing, or attempting to induce any person to bid for or purchase the security that's the subject of the distribution. And there are other provisions of Regulation M. Rule 103 of Regulation M, which addresses passive market making in NASDAQ securities. Rule 104, which makes it unlawful for any person directly or indirectly to stabilize or affect any syndicate covering transactions or impose penalty bids in connection with an offering outside of the specific prescriptive provisions of Rule 104. So 104 would apply in the case of most underwritten public offerings. And Rule 105, which applies in the case of underwritten firm commitment follow-on offerings and requires that investors not be allocated securities in certain registered offerings to the extent that they've sold short securities. There's a FINRA element to compliance with Regulation M. Designated principals are required to ensure compliance with FINRA Rule 5190 by delivering to FINRA certain Regulation M notices in connection with offerings. Regulation M is a very complex rule and requires close attention in connection with any offering that may be considered a distribution.